We are going to get started now. Want to make sure we get through as much content as we can. The first part is going to be some introductions, but welcome everybody to the Upgrading Enterprise CX from Reactive to Predictive uh, meeting that we're having here. We have the roundtable series every month from Balboa. And so you'll see an invite to the next one at the end of this. These are awesome roundtable discussions that we have with business leaders from all over the industries that we work with. And I'm going to give a quick introduction to Vikas and Kelly. Vikas, Kelly both are from Emburse, and Vikas leads the customer experience intelligence team at Emburse, where he drives customer-centric strategy, operational excellence, and data-informed decision-making. He partners closely with renewals, customer success, finance, and executive leadership to elevate customer satisfaction, accelerate growth, and strengthen retention outcomes. Known for his analytical rigor and collaborative leadership, he fosters a culture of continuous improvement. And Vikas, do you want to give a little shout out to yourself, and then I'll go on to Kelly?
I think that was quite impressive. So I'll just stick with that. Thank you
Awesome.
so much. Yeah, I
Yeah.
lead the customer experience intelligence at Emburse. Kelly.
Awesome. And then Kelly is a vice president of customer success and managed services at Emburse, where she leads global teams focused on driving customer value, retention, and long-term growth. She oversees customer success and services strategy, ensuring customers not only adopt Emburse solutions, but achieve meaningful business outcomes. Kelly, same thing. If you want to give a quick shout out, and then we'll get started on the presentation.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Excited to be here. Thank you for inviting us, Keith.
Awesome. And then I am Keith Wagner. I'll be facilitating this. I'm the CTO of Balboa. I have about 10 years of product and product operations experience. And I built my career around connecting human insights to business success. And so I'm going to turn it over to Vikas, who's going to give a presentation on how we can upgrade Enterprise CX from reactive to predictive. And then after that, we are going to have a Q&A section. So during the session, oh yes, we have this. This is a bit about us. Balboa. But during the session, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Some we might answer during the presentation. Most are going to be held until the very end. But please put them in the chat. We will get to them if we have time, and we'll have that for a Q&A at the very end. Okay, Vikas, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'll give it to Kelly to first understand who we are as Emburse. Kelly, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. So, as Keith said, Vikas and I both work for Emburse, where we help organizations to manage their employee spend or spend control in general. So, everything from travel booking to expense reporting, invoice payments. Is where we focus in. So it really gives us a unique lens into customer behavior through their spending. And we've really been focused on turning that data into insights that our teams can act on. Today, we support over 20,000 organizations globally, and we have been on the same journey, likely many of you are. How do we shift from this reactive support engagement with our customers to something more predictive that is data driven through what we call at Emburse CX intelligence or CXI? So I'll turn it over to Vikas, who is the man, the myth, the legend behind all of this at Emburse, and let him walk you through a bit of what this has looked like in our world.
Wow, the bar has raised. So let me try to meet that bar. So yeah, so agenda for today is basically to foster discussion, and we will focus on the discussion part. I will put like some sort of frameworks in front of you that has helped us to go from reactive to predictive, and we are on our journey towards now automation and fully end-to-end orchestration and automation. So I will try to reflect how we did it, but that doesn't mean that exact journey would fit to your journey as well. But I hope the frameworks will allow you to think and tailor it to your own needs. So we'll talk about, first of all, reactive to predictive, conceptually what it means, what are we trying to do. Then I will put together, like in front of you, like a operating model, like a framework, like how you can think about it to begin with. I'll show you how we went from data to insights to actions, and now we are how we are moving towards automation and orchestration. Insight operationalization, like it's not just sufficient to build insight, but then how do you operationalizing to the business flow is actually where the business value is. So we'll talk about that. And then we will not just rest there. We will explore the last part, which is shift to predictions and automation. The end goal, which is where we are able to differentiate where the humans need to work, where the leverage exists, and then segregate that from what system can do for us automatically. So we'll talk about this whole thing, and then please, yes, feel free to stop me. We would keep it more like roundtable kind of framework for this discussion. All right. First of all, let's think about reactive and predictive conceptually. First of all, what does it really mean? And I've tried to keep this as much as industry agnostic and tool agnostic and technology agnostic. So these concepts are general. I'm sure these apply to your business as well. And all the information that will be shared will be agnostic to the fintech where we belong to. So reactive is, generally risk appears late, point in time health scores thinly spread across accounts. Heroics are required when we have customer, churn situation, escalations, and so on. We don't want to be there, right? We would like to be more proactive and, have a good understanding of customer trajectory and momentum and what they feel about us when they take decisions around renewal, like in a SaaS business, what are the considerations? We would like to get visibility into all that. And so basically, no surprises, as our CCO often says, no surprises, forecasting, strong forecasting, visibility into momentum, trajectory, and so on. Trends over time is, again, a meaningful, I would say, thing to know about your customer, like how they're trending. They may see all green right now, but they may be heading towards a red state in the next 6 months when the renewal or when the upsell opportunity really going to hit us. So it's important to understand the trends over time as well, and focused where it matters means, again, as I mentioned, what is where a human is needed, but also understanding where system can do it for us, all automation, self-service. Like you cannot do all that without having clear understanding and confidence in your intelligence and how to then divert that to different sort of plays that can be automated, right? And then lastly, system replaces heroics, which is, we should not be like hero all the time. Like let system do it for us and surface the insights that are needed for our day-to-day businesses. So,
Yeah, Ross, I got
this
a
is
question
general
for you.
definition. Yes, Keith, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a question. So with this going from reactive to predictive, would you say that industry affects this at all? Because we have people from various different industries, and I'm curious if you have any insights into that.
I would say there is definitely an industry play in this context. However, I would say that in some industries, it may be even more required than other industries. Like for example, if you are more into, just to give you a rare example, I don't know if it fits here properly or not, but let's say you have a towing business and you are, you want to be first in the queue to address a need. You need to be really, really, predictive and proactive about the upcoming demand. So to your point, Keith, yes, there is an industry play, but I think the baseline doesn't change. It just makes it more urgent versus less urgent or medium urgent. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions before general thoughts on this? Okay, so let's talk about like if we understand like what is predictive and what is proactive operations, then let's see like how we can get there. So here's a simple framework or targeting operating model that we have underlined in our strategy, which allow us to think in terms of these important construct of this framework. I've just really kept it simple. It is a little bit more complicated, but just to give you a sense of what it means. So you start from the sense, which is like you consolidate your data points and you make it, first of all, yeah, you start to understand, what your data is telling. Even before you start to kind of like, consolidate your those intelligence point into one and like make that in something like meaningful. First you need to do is to start sensing what are those really the data points that can help you, right? Then you decide on certain guardrails, right? You, of course, if you have like a large customer, you don't want everything to be automated. You still want your human tap and touch in there so that you can, if needed, you can just pitch in to what automation is doing. So you want to define those guardrails fix like a deciding framework around your sense and intelligence. Then you basically do some action based on what you have learned. This is where the automated actions agents come and play. This is where you can automate some save plays in your CRM based on the intelligence. You may have your CSP software doing some sort of automation based on that, but this is where you need to act based on the intelligence. And then lastly, you learn from what the action that you have done, and you kind of like measure the sentiments of the customer, and then you feed it back to your intelligence layer or to the sense layer, where it kind of becomes like a cyclic process.
I got a quick question on this,
Yes.
Vikas. So we're trying to go from the reactive to predictive, and the first step from what you're saying is that we need to have good data, right? We need to have things that are coming into the system that then we can make decisions off of. From your experience, and you might get to this, but what sense construct has been the most impactful?
And Kelly, feel free to pitch in this one as well, because you interact with customers on a daily basis. In my mind, when we talk about sense, it's more about the customer journey and experience with our products, with our services, right? So it can start from onboarding. It can go to a point where we are supporting them post go live. This could be their renewal journey with us. This could be, our implementation process experience with them, and vice versa. So sense is basically the touch points where we are interacting with their value realization with our brand. So that's everything. Yes, Kelly, if you have anything to add there.
Yeah, I agree with that. It really just is looking at where they're at in the journey and what it is you need to be feeling and figuring out to understand, what friction may exist that you're not seeing in the signals. And I don't know, Keith, if now is a good time to answer the one question about like how quickly the health score becomes stale.
Yeah.
Um, somebody asked how quickly does that health score becomes stale? And, signals are obviously the key, but then how do you ingest those? And from my experience and even what we're seeing in the data is that health score becomes stale much faster than anyone actually realizes. You can't just set the score once a quarter and then just refresh it, right? And so for us, it's been about consistently testing, are we measuring the right points? Is there some
Mm.
other point that's telling a story about the customer's friction or the customer's journey that now we want to start ingesting? Or are we not signaling far enough back in the journey and we need to pull something forward? So for us, I think it's a constant evolution and almost a daily refresh, right, of that score to understand because and maybe it's different on the industry, right? Things can kind of spin that quickly, but that's my take on it. And I don't know, Vikas, if you have additional thought there.
I do actually have another question on that though. When we're going to that decide step, you were talking about making sure that we have the right things in this model. How do you determine that something is good enough to bring into the model?
Yeah, so there are two things there, right? One is a technical aspect of it, and then there is a business aspect of it. So business wise, you need to understand, what is governing that business process. Like for example, if it is renewal, you need to look at the ARR of that customer, the customer sentiment of the customer on that, right? How much upsell they had last time, like things like that, right? And then the technical side, you can always run things like correlation analysis to figure that out. So you can just feed all your predictors what you think are like potential, and you run like a kind of a technical analysis on those predictor with a correlation with your target variable, which is like whatever you want to understand, like churn or not churn, and then you can figure out like which predictors are actually making the difference towards your independent variable or your target variable that you are trying to predict or something. I hope that answers. There are two aspects of that. It's not like just it's not an intuition thing. You have to try both things. All right. Can we proceed, Keith?
Yeah, yeah, we're good.
All right. So now that we understand the high-level framework, and by the way, I will touch upon the comments that the questions and comments that came up in the chat around automatic updates to CRM, and then also like health score and predictions going hand in hand, and when one becomes stale and when you need to kind of like rely on the other. So we'll touch upon those as well. I like this slide because this allows us to see the flow end to end, and this is something that I built before I started to implement or execute anything. This is again our landscape. This doesn't mean that that's your landscape, but I hope this will give you the thought process around how do we move from data to insights to action. So in our case, we had our Salesforce, which is our core CRM, and that had all the metadata around our customers, like around the users and so on. And this is where we started with the raw data in CRM. Most of you have some form of it already, I'm sure. We decided to start building intelligence layer in Pendo, and this doesn't need to be Pendo, by the way. This could be anything. This is where you would consolidate all your data points and generate some meaningful intelligence out of that core raw data. So what we did was we consolidated our NPS, our product usage metrics, which we get from Pendo. We also were getting the customer effort score, some sort of invoicing information, and so on. So we started to then build this intelligence layer in Pendo in our case, but again, this could be anything. And that allowed us to, build health scores based off that integrated data. So you can see like how we slowly moved from raw data to adding intelligence on top of that raw data, processing it, and getting to health score. I'm sure you may have some health scores of some sort in your organizations as well, but this is how the flow went from data to processed information and intelligence, and then we can do some sort of like customer segmentation. Like for example, it's a large customer at risk. What do we do with it, right?
I got
So
a quick
customer
question, Vikas.
segmentation is where we started. Yes, Keith, go ahead.
Yeah. So going back to the beginning of this process, when you were setting this up, did you limit the amount of data that you were starting with? Because I see we're getting data from Salesforce and Pendo in this model. I'm sure Emburse has a lot of other sources of data that they could pull from. Is that something that you thought of? Hey, I'm going to limit this for this first pass and then bring more in later?
That's always a consideration, I must say, Keith. That's a good point because you don't want to boil the ocean with 200 things that you're not able to explain eventually. You need to start from small, scale it up. You start with, 4 or 5 main or core intelligent points, and then you start to make sense out of it. And when you get to a point where you are able to make sense out of it, that's your point where you say, okay, can I add more data? Can I add more predictor? Because explainability should be your core consideration in defining any intelligence.
Was with the things you started with, did you find that anything was particularly useful, or maybe something you added was maybe not as useful as you thought it would be?
Yes, actually, was not the latter case where we did not know. We knew that our customer sentiment around NPS was strong, and we were getting tremendous amount of data from our NPS, and we were not doing anything with it. So we said, like, that's not good. Let's do something with it. So when we generated the health scores, we not only took our product usage data, but we combined that with NPS, with CES, with invoicing data, and so on. That's where, like, now the dependency on NPS was lowered, because now we had like even more stronger measure that can be more actionable than just NPS setting. So basically, we knew NPS was important, but we kind of took it to the next level to make it more useful.
I like that. Okay. I have a question for Kelly. I'm going to let you finish the slide, Vikas, and then I have a question for Kelly. And then for everybody else, just as a reminder, please continue to put questions in the chat. We will get to them either during here or in Q&A.
They won't,
Absolutely. So, yes, go ahead. Is
I was
there a
just going to
question?
say they won't all come from me.
No, you keep them coming, Chris. These are good questions.
Awesome. So I think on this slide, I think you got the overall sense of what we are trying to do. But I want to also share that this is not a single flow through health score. You can do a lot. You can do things with predictive insights, and we did it as well. We not only have health scores, we also have predictions around churn, around white space, upsell white space, cross sell, upselling. Whenever we are launching a new product, we are trying to build like an upsell model for that product with some meaningful intelligence based on customer usage and things like that. So there are multiple directions how you can generate intelligence, and then all that can be fed into your workflow or your business processes by defining those customer segmentation segments, because then you can intelligently say, this is all system driven process, like let it run on its own. Small customer, happy customer, let them do what they like, let the system take over the end-to-end process. But if we have a red customer, large customer, lot of things at stake, you kind of like lead that with the human, for example.
Yeah, that is awesome. I actually do have a question on this. So we are surfacing a lot of amazing data, right? And now there's a point where we have to really push and use it. And Kelly, I'm curious from your perspective how a CSM's day actually looks different once these insights are embedded into their workflow.
Yeah, it's really been something exciting to see that their focus and their attention becomes more deliberate and more focused on who truly needs the attention, who's truly at risk. So allowing them to prioritize the day in a meaningful way, based on the insights that are coming in, allowing them to even prior to this automation that we were building out, a lot of the sentiment that we were pulling was just gut feel from the CSM of, oh yeah, this person's so upset. And really it's just, somebody who's just fussy. And so for them, their day to day, I think they're more confident in what it is that they're engaging in and how they interact with the customers, while also still having that ability to call out fussiness, because that just exists at times. And you
Yeah.
do have to treat that with a different lens.
Yeah, Kelly, you had said that some before there was a lot of intuition, which is great in some scenarios, but how do
Yeah.
you prevent CS teams from going back to those old habits and really using these insights long term?
Yeah. So a lot of it is just showing the trust, showing the like what that does for their day, how that shows up in things like our retention rates, our renewal rates. When you kind of are, we had situations where our CSMs were maybe focusing on lower value customers who were considered at risk and missing a smoke signal on a really big account. And so for them to see that, like, what I'm pouring myself into each and every day is meaningful and has greater impact than just my customer satisfaction or a health score changing from, red to amber or amber to green. That has gone a long way for the team, and that it is like imprinted in the DNA that this is how we operate. I think Vikas said at the beginning, like our philosophy at Emburse has become no surprises. And so having just a very simple framework for them to operate on, I think has also allowed them to really push in and dive in on these intelligence that has been surfaced by Vikas.
But
All right. So we have some questions. I hope we can come back to those, Keith, or you want to address them now?
yeah, I see that we are responding to some of our questions in line in the chat. But also Kelly and Vikas, feel free to answer any of these that you see. If we don't get to them, then we will try to get to all of them at the end in the QA section.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, Kelly, some of those relate to CS, so if you can help responding those while I continue on
I
the
got you.
framework side. Thank you so much. All right, so I hope this framework lays the ground for like how to move from data to insight. Let's move on. This is an example of operationalization. I mentioned the importance of operationalization at the beginning of this presentation. And here's an example of how we are thinking with the help of Balboa, by the way. This is most credit goes to Balboa on this one for sure. Here's an example. So we talked about customer segmentation in the last slide towards the right side of the framework. You take that segment, you have a large customer, you have a red customer, you have their upcoming renewal in 180 to 120 days. You know that they are red, so let's trigger a save play automatically, right? And that's what we are doing. We are triggering a save play with our large accounts, and we are saying, okay, which type of support would you most helpful right now? So we are trying to kind of explore proactively with the customer that, okay, tell us more, even without telling them that they are red or their usage is dropping, we are trying to explore more in that. And we are giving them an option to talk to Kelly, like which is she would get a call anyways if they are unhappy, right? So let's do that proactively. Why not, right? So and then so this is how like customer is reaching to us more proactively, and we are reaching to the customer more proactively, gathering that feedback. Then we take that feedback, we trigger like a Zendesk ticket. So it's not that we are just saying that someone would work on that. We are actually making it, putting that in our support process where we are creating a Zendesk ticket based off that customer input. And we are making sure that goes to the CS queue in the right way at the right time. And then someone actually has to close that ticket to make sure that they are addressing the customer concern proactively. All is done automatically to a point where it reaches to the queue and someone then reaches out to the customer or address that billing support, which they will have ability to provide more information on the next screen. And then we address that, and hopefully that would make a positive change to customer health in the context of renewal, and that will be able to turn around that customer to a successful renewal.
I love that. We could skip a few steps if we just put Kelly's personal phone number on that guide next time. So I'm kidding.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yes, we tried that. It didn't work. Kelly gave us a wrong number.
I gave a fake number, 555-1234. No.
Oh, I love that. Have you liked the classification of red, yellow, green with these? Has that been like a good metric? Do you think that there should be like a more than 3 for each customer type? What do you think?
We do have the scores, but those are a bit complicated for users to infer. So we don't use that to drive behaviors. Instead, like it's really red, yellow, green is a definition that can be tweaked if needed. But that makes it so simple for the like renewal manager or like a customer success manager to really interpret that and take decision based on that.
Yeah, I echo that. I hear some people doing the amber, the this, I threw that out there because even some of my CSMs by default will use that term. And we've really just stuck with the 3 to keep it simple, to keep it very focused on what are the plays, what are the nuances. Green, we go this way, red, we do this, yellow, we do that. Trying not to overcomplicate the amount of plays or automation that we have to engage with.
I like that because you have a lot of customers and a lot of CSMs. When all this comes into one place, it's a lot easier to have something as easy as green, yellow, red. I'm assuming. I mean, it sounds like it's been working really well.
It has been. Yep. I'll try to cover the rest of the content in a few minutes so that like you get a chance to ask questions as well. Just on this slide, just to wrap it up, it's not a singular process, it's a parallel process. You can see like we are updating the Zendex as well, letting them know that this customer is red. So that when they interact with the customer, they are able to intelligently use that information, as well as we are feeding that into the Salesforce so that the sales team and any stakeholder which is looking at that renewal opportunity or account would know that they are red, and they can then not only just tailor their actions but also their messaging to the customer, and then this can be further automated.
Yeah.
Right?
I do have a question with that. You have a lot of data that we talked about coming into this. And I guess this is more a question for Kelly. How often do your CSMs go and clarify the data or look at other things that are not necessarily used in this model? Maybe like going back to Pendo and seeing some other usage analytics.
Yeah, so our current cadence, I mean, obviously they're going to be doing this on their own as they're approaching a customer call or an escalation of the sort. They may be pulling kind of the most recent. But we have a monthly, what we call our horizon forecast, where we're projecting 180 days out, who's up for renewal, bringing those accounts in. Everybody fills out. It is intended to be very manual at this point, so they have to touch and feel the data, right? So they have to touch it, they have to look at it, they have to kind of understand the signals that are coming from their customers. And then we pressure test that. So while they're going through what they are calling the risk or the forecast is, Vikas and I might be pulling it up and say, really? They're really green? The health signal is saying red. And so then we can talk to that. And what we found is one of two things happens when we're at a mismatch, right? Either Vikas understands a new insight that we can unlock for our input into our health score and how we capture that in a meaningful way, or the CSMs get kind of an adjustment in their intuition and in their gut check. So it's kind of a team effort between insights and actual humans running the accounts, to ensure that both are always in check based on what we're learning and seeing live within the business.
Would you say, Kelly, that it's been adopted like culturally at Emburse? Like that has changed the culture of how people look at customers?
Yes, emphatically, yes. Yeah, I've been at Emburse 12 and a half years, and the amount of evolution I have seen has been really exciting. But I would say this last, call it 12 months, has just been like a blaze of fire for how we look at our customers, how we engage with our customers, our intelligence behind our customers, and our confidence on what our renewals look at, like what our risk looks like all the way through to 2026. And quite honestly, we even have lens into early 2027 already.
Nice. In terms of the culture, was there any hiccups you had in trying to gain adoption that you wish you could go back and change?
I think the only thing that probably sticks out is just like the trust in that data and the understanding of the data, right? So bringing them along in the journey maybe a little bit sooner, as Vikas and I are forming this early, kind of bringing them along that journey so they understood that vision, and that it wasn't a like drilling in and micromanagement of, do you really understand your account, but where are we going with this and why is it important? But I've seen it start out where the first few Horizon reviews were just the CSMs who had accounts reviewed, right, up for renewal. And it has evolved where CSMs who have no stake in the game for that renewal, they're there to learn. Our renewals team loves to come. Our sales team loves to come. Our support team members, like we are having it be more of a cross-functional people sitting in and listening to hear what's happening in our accounts and how we mitigate any risk that we're forecasting.
Vikas, any insights there as well?
It has been a total collaborative effort. It is based off the intelligence, but it also respects the CSM sentiment, which sometimes is hard for intelligence to cover, right? So that's where it becomes powerful.
Yeah, love that.
Okay. So again, kudos to Balboa, Keith, Telina, who is also on this call for helping us to configure this flow. Amazing work. Thank you so much. Moving on, just examples and screens for you to realize what's a save play versus adoption play versus upsell play. The messaging changes. What we are doing in those places differs. Like, for example, here we are more focused on promoting a feature that they're not using that can help with more adoption. While with upsell, this is more like, we have a new feature coming up, like, have you seen this, book a demo, those kind of stuff. So you can really tailor your content based on what you would like at that moment. This is kind of like a collaboration between an intelligence layer and your communication layer, right? So that's how you can just tailor it to whatever scenario you want it to. Okay. Seeking is to automated agent. This is the next step, next level, right? We reach to a level where we are doing some automation and action. Some of it is kind of semi-manual, semi-automated, right? So now we are focused on automated agents and what can be done end to end automatically. So we have started to think about, how can we orchestrate all this, as a one flow end to end. So here's one starting step that we are taking, which is to build some churn predictive modeling. And this is on top of health score, by the way. So health score give the current picture, while predictive score give you the future picture. Both are important because you need that complete insight when you're interacting with the customer or making decisions around price increase or, any sort of discounts or anything like that. You need both the pictures at your inside. By the way, this can also be complemented by things like CSM sentiment score or like a price sensitivity intelligence that can all come together, and you are just seeing the entire picture end to end, and then decision making becomes very easy. But you also don't want to just leave it to the person to decide something. You can then tie your save plays, your plays, automated plays into that decision making and say, like, if this happens, that happens, here's an exception scenario, but more or less this is what you need to do. That way you can scale very nicely. You can hire offshore to manage the process, save on cost and things like that. It is, and this is, someone asked about like putting the insight into CRM. This is exactly what this on the right hand side, this visual is showing. You take that predictive score and you put that in Salesforce. It should refresh soon, but this insight is directly in the CRM where you need it. Right here,
Now,
this is Salesforce. You can see that.
yeah, I love that. And that's actually a really big part of this is surfacing information where people are rather than forcing everybody to go and say, oh, where is this data? Is it in Pendo? Is it in Salesforce? Is it in here? Having all the data available to everybody where they currently live, huge benefit to something like this. A quick question that is from the chat. If I think Kelly actually just answered it, but I'm already halfway there, so I'll say it. But have you explored moving from the CSM sentiment to a systematic conversational sentiment from a tool like Gong, or potentially using both and just pushing everything into the system?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's something that we've explored. Understanding like Predict can even, pick apart that information and ingest that as well as to the things we're hearing. Our sales team, as I mentioned, our sales team uses Gong, and it's kind of a natural next exploration step as we're planning for budget and scale. But today, it's not sitting in the CSM's toolkit.
Got it. Yeah. This is actually a great question, Chris, with the good questions as always. But curious whether CSMs are building what they're building internally using AI to assist them in consuming this information.
Ooh, that's a good question. I'll have
Also,
to
what MCPs are you using to enable that?
say that again.
What MCPs are you
MCPs.
using? Yeah.
Vikas, I'll turn that to you from the technical side because you're our AI guru. I know it's not anything I've put in the CSM's hands yet today, but I'll turn that over to you, Vikas.
Yeah, so I'll maybe share something which even Kelly doesn't know because I've not rolled it out. So,
He always has
so
surprises for
I
me,
always
Chris.
in the environment where we are trying to avoid surprises. So, yeah, so we just enabled the Pendo MCP to, we have intelligence layer, we build intelligence layer now. How do we expose this? So just today, I was able to successfully connect ChatGPT. Claude works excellent with the Pendo MCP, but just today, I was able to connect with ChatGPT to Pendo, and I'm able to just ask a question like, give me an overview of this account, and it lays down all the usage metrics and sentiment and so on very nicely.
I would also recommend the Salesforce MCP as well, and also the Atlassian MCP if you're using like Jira
Yes.
or whatever. It's amazing. It works all together, just FYI.
We
Cool.
enabled Atlassian as well. We are able to connect with the Confluence and have our professional services team query that their knowledge base in Confluence.
Yeah.
Salesforce, I'll take that as an input and I'll export. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to bring back a question that was asked a bit ago, and there's been a conversation about it. But is the places that you were looking at, or the guides, if those were surfaced from Pendo? And the answer is yes, there, because it's important to get the information to your internal users of the health score, for example, of certain customers. But it's also really important to get the information or the communication that you want where your users are. Emails, a lot of times people are having a hard time, getting to those. Surfacing communication in the application where they are working is a far more useful tool. And it's perfect that you have everything in that way for this whole model.
Yeah, and that's really a great point, Keith, because we had traditionally done our NPS through a very well-known CSP Gainsight, and it was email based. And our participation was so low, it was almost like not even meaningful to look at the data. And so when Vikas started really diving in more as Balboa joined our team of experts here, and we started looking at how we could get NPS stood up. That was really one of our big charters was email is not getting to people. They could filter us out, they could say unsubscribe, whatever it is. So the amount of responses, I don't know, Vikas, did you have in the QBR yesterday, wasn't there some crazy percent increase of participation that we had just by moving it to where the users are? And so that's been fantastic for us.
We were
Vikas may have
around,
oh,
just to
go
add
ahead.
a statistics to that, like number to that, we were around 1,000 responses with our previous process for three of our core products in one quarter. We are right now around 30,000.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, that's the same thing happened earlier in my career when I learned the importance of this. We had some campaign, I don't even remember exactly what it was, but we were getting around a 1% to 2% response rate over email. And when we switched it to in-app communication overnight, it was up to 12%. After like 3 weeks, we were at a 12% response rate. And it's hard to get people are working, people are doing things. And that's a huge amount of people that we got just essentially in 2 weeks.
Yep.
We have over 1 million CES for one of our product in the last 3 years. 1 million responses. That's the kind
That
of
is,
data we are getting from Pendo. Yes.
that's impressive. Okay, everybody, if you have any other questions, put them in chat. We're just about to get to the Q&A. I know that there's a few more slides we're going to get through, and then we'll answer those questions in chat.
I'm going to quickly run over because I hope you got the framework and what are we doing, right? So I'm just going to quickly, this is just an example of, someone asked like that I was showing in that small video in the previous slide. This is how it looks. This is also not our system, but our system is even better than that. So we are able to connect not only the predict score, I'm able to show here the health score and also the MAO in the last 1 year, in the last 1 year or last month. I'm able to show last visit they did with our product. All that kind of like meaningful insights are right there on the renewal opportunity or on the account as I needed. Okay. Yeah, so this is my last slide. The future we are building towards at Emburse prediction, decide where we engage. So this is the underlying message. This is not just one time I look at the account, I take a decision, but this helps us with forecasting as well, which is a core business driver for any business. So we are able to now, we are at a stage where we should be able to do some sort of very meaningful forecasting with our customers, and based on that, decide some business decisions, take some business decisions, and change our focus areas and things like that. So that's that. Digital scales what doesn't need human touch, is self-intuitive with what we are doing, and connected data gives us clarity. We have got the taste of it now, and the team that wins won't work harder, they see things sooner. So I'll leave you with that in terms of the presentation.
Yeah, and what I think a good thing to take from this meeting, like the main thing to take from this meeting is the operationalization. Like you have so much data, and doing something like this can make your data work for you. So really is why that's like a big thing everybody should take from this meeting is the ability to make your data work for you. Okay, we're in a Q&A section, and I'm going to go through a few of these questions that we have in chat. If you have any others, please put them in there. We'll get to as many of them as we can. And I was looking at one, if there's a difference in NPS in your space between users and buyers, because sometimes if users are surveyed, they're likely going to drift further from anything revenue related. Now, I personally have seen this to where you might survey somebody and they're not really sure that you're asking about the product or improvements or things like that, and they might go into talking about how they don't like their boss. I've seen that before. So, how do you do that within Emburse?
I think this is a question that has come to us a few times, and I think the first, when we switched to vendor for the NPS, our goal wasn't to really filter the feedback that we were getting. We wanted to hear anything and everything that people were saying, right? So we considered all responses, but then you can also have some sort of like role filter on that data that can allow you to differentiate between general users, admin versus decision maker. There's one caveat to this, which is sometimes the decision maker may not be using the app, the application itself, right? So you need to have some sort of like email orchestration and things like that. But for our products, at least for the smaller ones, usually the admin is the decision maker, or is the key stakeholder in that decision. So I think that's a good point. We at this point we are not segregating the NPS, but that's something I think would benefit. I agree to that.
Yeah, and I will just to add to that, when I first found out that was the strategy, right, that we were pushing towards of everybody, not just admins or the decision maker, right? The executive role. I was cautiously optimistic, I guess, that it would be the right move. And now, fast forwarding 9 months after putting that in place, I'm very glad we took that approach just because one, like, especially in the world of where you're dealing with people's money, like we are in spend control, a noisy user who maybe is at a senior leadership level that dislikes, I mean, that could sway very easily up into the office of the CFO when you're dealing with those types of things. So regardless of role, I think it's really important to have that pulse. And then also just, you never know, we work with a lot of law firms, a lot of the top 100 law firms, and they all just hop around and cycle, right? So even industry, right? So segmentation of role, but even industry, high ed is another one where they'll hop around. And so knowing what our brand reputation is within all users, not just those signing the check, was a right move for us long term.
You talked about the difference between how people might respond to those when they're leaders or other types of users. And I want to take that the other direction. Internal leadership, how do you report that to internal leadership different than, let's say, a CSM? And the question here is if you can do that in Salesforce and connect it without having to go into the predict window every time.
I think for leadership, it's important to synthesize the information in some sort of a forecast or some sort of like a, consolidated insight rather than this account, that account. Of course, if those are large accounts and they are into in churn risk, then we must call it out. But when it comes to, like, for example, just churn prediction in mind, the forecast around the ARR, how much we expect our ARR to be at risk versus how much is healthy ARR, is very, very useful information that I present to the leadership every quarter. And then, though that is also fed to board later on. So that's how we are doing it on a
Yes.
quarterly basis.
Another question just came up of if you use NPS, in this case, I'm actually curious about the health score for finding early adopters or beta programs. Like, do you look in the green section of your customers for something like that?
I can take that one a bit, because so early adopters and beta, it's a little bit of a blend, I would say. A lot of it is us working with our product team to understand what is the MVP of this feature functionality and kind of tuning that first to what's the short list, who actually would be viable candidates from there. And we look at our early adopters a little bit differently. We then filter it additionally to see who's attached with a technical account manager, or in our world, they're called solution advisors. Because when we're doing early adopters, a lot of times we want that hand holding, we want that highly consultative feedback loop.
White glove.
Um, so in that regard, we don't just focus in now then, right? Those technical account managers and CSMs can additionally kind of knock people out by going, this is going off the rails. They're really upset. Do not put them into an early adopter. Or they could flip it the opposite. Yes, I think this would get them where we need them to be healthy by placing them in a beta or an early adopter. So it's kind of multi-threaded in the way we look at those programs. I don't know, Vikas, if you had additional on that, or
I just have an example right now. So we just launched a new product and we are working on a model which can give us a white space on that product. Not just early adopters, but like this is really scale selling, you know.
yep.
So if you have clear indicators, you will not waste your time in someone who doesn't even have a pocket to buy that, like for example, or doesn't even use that feature. So those kind of at scale selling indicators can be very helpful.
Well, we should be going into a wrap up phase right now, but I have one question that I have to ask before we end. So we'll try to keep them short, and then we'll get to the wrap up section. But what are you, Kelly, and what are you, Vikas, most excited about with this? Excited for things that have happened, but also excited for the future.
Oh, I think for me, I am most excited about just the impact on the day-to-day operations for my teams. I'm always somebody who says, work smarter, not harder. And I truly believe in that. I've said that before AI was a thing. Like, let's find a way to be more efficient. You shouldn't just have to crank at your desk for 9 hours a day, because that's the way the world operates. Like, let's be smart about it. So really being able to understand what's going on with our customers faster without always having to have a conversation and make a judgment call based on what you thought you heard or how you interpreted their sentiment in an email. It allows us to really consolidate our tech stack, or even how our teams show up, and build out other teams that are more important to the business. And I can't end without saying no surprises, right? That's the theme of Emburse right now, no surprises. So that's what I'm looking forward to, being able to like put the stamp on and say, we did it. There are no surprises in our book.
Awesome. Well, Vikas, same question to you. Unfortunately, I'm going to give you 2 sentences. So if you can put it down to that, that would be.
I'll do it in one: no surprises and end-to-end orchestration.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you everybody for joining this. We have a roundtable every single month. So we will send out the content of this roundtable to every participant and people who signed up for this. And then you will also receive a notification for our next roundtable as soon as that is decided upon. If you have any other suggestions for roundtables or topics that you want to discuss, please let us know. Just as a last word for this, remember, for what we want you to take from this meeting is the ability to operationalize your data and make your data work for you. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Thank you, Vikas. Thank you, Kelly. I have to do a shout out to Jonathan, who's on here from Balboa. He put a lot of this together, so definitely
Yes.
want to say that. And then also to Lena for all the help that Talina did on Emburse. So wanted to give those shout outs before we end.
And
thank
thank
you,
you,
everybody.
Keith. This was
Oh,
great.
yes.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for joining.